Today's comics market is ripe with new titles by creators who are determined to get their books into your hands. My name is Onrie. For the last decade, I've been making and selling my own creator-owned comics and dealing as a collector in live sales. My signature series, Hutchinson, is the book that cannot be defeated in battle and has over 250,000 copies in print. Now I'm taking comics to the next level and laying the groundwork for my fellow creators to get their voices heard so they can connect directly with you. This is your chance to engage live with top comic book talent and get your comics signed without having to wait in long lines or pay any fees. But remember, we only have a limited amount of their books in stock, so always remember to call it as you see it. You're watching Virtual Signings with Onrie, the live event show. What is up, everybody? It is so good to be back with you guys this afternoon. So I got a very special guest in the house with me right now. If you guys had a chance to watch the latest episode of my pre-recorded show, Onward with Onrie, you guys got a chance to hear about a gentleman who has been a tremendous inspiration and guiding light for me as a creator / dealer, whatever you want to call it. And I've had him on live with Onrie twice, and now I'm bringing him on so I could get his books out of here, and maybe he can sell some of his books too. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to try something new today. So for those of you guys who missed the show, don't worry. We're going to be back on the EXP in just 2 hours after this show airs. You get 2 hours with the creator here, and you can ask him questions. He's here to engage with you, and he engages with everybody. He's the most engaging guy in comics. I'd like to welcome Mr. Tom Hutchinson from Big Dog Inc. No.
Listen, I don't come on to my show screaming things out. Call it as you see it. I don't kick things. I come here, I drink grape juice, and I sell comics, and that is my life.
See, I should take a cue from you. I don't have enough grape juice.
Beverage of choice, whatever it is. Sometimes it's the blood of my enemies. Sometimes it's grape juice. Whatever works.
Cora, what's up? Mike, how you doing? Okay, so Tom, I think anybody who doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell them who you are, what you do, all that kind of stuff. There we go. That's it. That's all you need to know.
Right there. Tom Hutchinson, Big Dog Inc. Big Dog Inc. We celebrated 10 years of publishing last year. During COVID, we celebrated 10 years. I can't say we didn't miss a beat, because that would be a lie, because obviously we couldn't do all the shows that we wanted to do and really kind of use that moment in time to kind of elevate us. But we did do really well for ourselves last year. We did great Kickstarters. We brought hundreds of new fans to Big Dog Inc. through the Comic Book Shopping Network, through doing shows like this, through just general live nonsense that we did last year, either on my own or through other people's shows. Somehow we ended up managing to develop a movie chit chat review thing, whatever it's called. I don't even know what it is, but we're still doing it. We're on episode 17 tomorrow night. So come check out scene 1 take 3 with myself, Jim Noble, and David Fought tomorrow night. But basically it was just a weird kind of scramble last year because of COVID for a lot of people. And for me, it was less of a scramble just because I had already been doing this. I had already been doing live shows. I'd already been selling my comics live. I had kind of stepped out of the convention limelight in 2019, long before COVID came around. So when it did come around, it was like, well, I'm kind of already doing what I need to do. So now I just kind of have to figure out how to level it all up. And I don't know if I did or didn't, but we had an okay 2020, barring some COVID issues with our teams, which set some books back, but everybody's fine, which is good. But yeah, no, 2020 was okay for us, and 2021 is starting on the right foot.
And I got to tell you, man, when I look at, what you've been doing already, because when I initially came across what you were doing, and it was Jen King who kind of directed me in your direction. She kind of like nudged me, and she's like, "Oh, if you want to get back to selling again, you should talk to Tom Hutchinson and see what he's doing." And, you know, as soon as I talked to you, the one thing I really appreciated was the fact that you were so inviting to somebody that you didn't know. Like, we knew each other in passing, but we weren't really like close or anything like that. The fact that you know, just told me what I needed to hear. And that's an important thing. You know, that got me to where I am now. And I look at where you are, and it's like, you know, I hold you up here, man, because it's a different playing field. You know, it's not the same thing as being at a convention. You know, this is really hard stuff. Live sales is really
That's true.
It's different.
It's true. I am pretty amazing.
And humble, guys.
No, but he's right. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw his video that he posted today talking about what was going on last year and you know, how everybody kind of had to scramble and figure out things out. Live shows is not anything anyone's ready for ever. At the beginning, it is all trial and error. It is all, I have a book and it has this cat girl and they're $25 and who wants one? And then you have to evolve that into, yo, man, we got the 10-year anniversary trade paperbacks. They're here, brand new cover. They're on sale today. Get one now. I mean, you have to just like, you know, call it as you see it. You know, you just have to go and eventually, ideally, you just have to do it enough times that you're loose enough that you're just enjoying whatever it is that you're doing, because you're going to have shows where you don't sell much. You're going to have shows where you sell too much. And in both cases, you just need to be enjoying whatever it is that you're doing with the people that are doing it with you, which means the audience, the fans, the crowd that's hanging around with you online. If you're having a good time, then the rest of it just kind of falls into place. But until you kind of can create a rapport with them, that's the most important part. It's not coming in with a shtick. It's not about kicking things at the beginning of your show.
That's why I stopped doing it. I got caught on to that. It only took me about 20 episodes. I figured out no one likes the kick it.
It's funny. It's great. But it's developing the rapport with the fans, the customers, the people that become what we call the big dogging family, because everybody is part of it. It's me, it's the artist, it's the colorist, it's the inkers, it's the letterer, it's the printer, it's the people that buy the books, it's the people that spread the links. It is the people that, you know, take part in the Kickstarters. That's the big dogging family. That's what we call it. And everyone who has any part in that, from me to, you know, the fans, the buyers, whatever, even the flippers. I mean, they're all helping us spread the word of Big Dog Inc. So it's the big dogging family, and that's what you have to generate when you're doing like a live, I mean, really live anything, but especially if you're trying to sell books, especially when they're your books and not like, hey, I've got Incredible Hulk 181. Like, that's easy to sell. But when it's like, hey, I've got, you know, Critter number 13, who the hell knows what that is? So you got to be able to explain to them what it is. They have to, you know, like what you're saying, you know, about the product. They have to, I mean, you got to have a collar shirt. I mean, Onrie, you're in a t-shirt. Like, what are you doing?
I
what are you doing?
To wear a jacket and everything. And then I was just like, I decided to pull the stick out of my ass, and, you know, I started dressing down, like, you know, keeping it fresh like everybody in comics does. But
right.
Most of the people in comics, not Jim.
Well, normally I'd be in a t-shirt too that has like Big Dog on it or some kind of branding, but because I'm using this doofus green screen thing, I find that every time I wear like a dark color, I get all like I'm going through a wormhole, like right here. It's just like, oh my God, that's so weird. So every time, 90% of the time when you see me on a live show like this, when I'm using the green screen, I'm usually in white so that it just sharp. Everything's sharp. See how sharp it is?
No, the background is really sharp. Way sharper than I got to figure out something to do with my office computer backdrop. I got to get one of those green screens too. But here's something I wanted to just share with everybody, because you know, while we're on this topic of live sales, I remember I was in California and with my partner Kevin, and we were basically clearing out a bunch of inventory that we had allocated out there. And we decided to do a show, and we did a show out on on a pool deck, and it was overlooking all of California. It was really beautiful. And throughout the whole show, we didn't sell anything. And I was just like, I was so bummed. And then sure enough, I just messaged Tom and I was just like, how do you get past this point of like, when does it get easier? And, I tried doing a full creator owned, rack, and it just didn't work out. And one of the things that Tom said to me is, he said, sometimes I do shows where I sell nothing but Marvel and DC stuff and no one buys anything. It fluctuates because, unlike conventions where you can actually pitch people or people just, you get that physical interaction when you're doing this live sales, people are only going to call it as they see it.
Right.
And that really motivated me. And once you told me that, oddly enough, I made a couple sales post the show because, one of the things Jesse James told me when I interviewed him on my show, back in, I think, December, was that we're always selling. And that's the difference now is like we're working 24/7. Anytime someone wants something, we're kind of there to appeal to it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, even if I'm watching a movie, I'm selling because I have the website. I have things where people are finding me while I'm doing other things. So, there's always a way to sell more books. Just keep going.
Freddie's asking if you want to get kicked. I don't think he wants to get kicked, but I do think he wants to tell us about some of these incredible books here that we have graciously and very happily stocked here. So, Tom, why don't you tell us, because I know we got a bunch of variants here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about these beautiful books here? I'm gonna shuffle through the covers here so folks can take a look.
Yeah.
I like the eyes of all these the characters on the covers here. They all have very beautiful eyes.
Yeah, right.
I love the eyes.
So this is a set that we did for Critter. Critter's our superhero book, and basically this is a set of covers that I don't know if you guys remember, about 4 or 5 years ago, Boom did a Power Ranger book, and they did a set of covers with the Power Rangers holding their, to just basically homage that idea. We have all these different critters, and we wanted each one of the critters to be holding the different set of ears that she has through these different, essentially parallel dimensions, which is part of the critter story. And so we did this set. It's called All About the Ears. It is 5 of the different critters that exist. They're all holding their ears up front so that you can kind of see the difference in the designs. One is steampunk. One is sci-fi. We call her the Catgirl of Mars. There's steampunk right there. There's Catgirl of Mars right there. There's the standard classic blue. There's the perfection where she's in the spots. And then there's the cat, what we call the Cat in the Bat right there, where she's a vampire critter. So we just did a nice set. It's really cool. It's all done by C.B. Zane and Elenia Dinapi. So it's the same artist across them all. So that makes the set, a little extra cool because there's no, the art stays the same across all of it. And actually CB does the interiors on this book too. This was actually a fill-in book that we did to keep the book on time. But CB ended up doing that and then all these covers as well. So this particular issue is issue 21. If you haven't read Critter before, you'll be able to buy these books and jump right in. It's every time we do a new arc, which is basically every 5 issues, we try and make it so that whoever's starting on that issue will kind of have an idea of where we are, where we've been, what's going on, and what's to come in that issue. So if you don't have Critter at all, you can get that issue or you can buy that whole set.
Yeah. So if you get the whole set, another thing too that's really cool about this is that this is limited. This is a limited edition of 200.
Right.
So and Tom, what immediately got me excited about these covers, I mean, I saw exactly what you were doing at the whole Power Rangers thing, and I loved the diversity of what you were offering here. It's like, it's really, really cool. So I believe the single issues are going for $30 a pop right now. Single
issues will be running about $20. And
okay, so
yeah, about $20 a piece. And then, generally if we do a set, we, knock a little bit off if you want to do that. So it's $100 for the set. And then, whatever you want to do, if someone wants to buy the whole thing, buy the whole set.
folks, I'm going to offer you guys a great deal right now. I'm going to do the whole set right now for $80. We got 2 full sets, and if we can sell these, Tom's going to bust out other stuff anyway. But before we do that, aside from Critter, we also got this really cool book right here, which is it's pretty naughty. Pretty naughty book.
It's an amazing book. It's an amazing book. Like I said, last year is 10-year anniversary for Big Dog Inc. It also happened to be the 25-year anniversary for Showgirls. And there was nothing that happened last year for Showgirls, like zero. Well, they put out a documentary called You Don't Know Me. There's a documentary. It's fantastic. Go watch it. It's called You Don't Know Me. I'm sure it's on Amazon or something. But I was like, yo, there's nothing. Like, there's no Blu-ray release. There's like nothing for Showgirls. So I had to give Showgirls a little bit of love. It's a Vegas book. Penny for Your Soul is a Vegas book. So I was like, okay, we're going to do something. We're going to cross over Penny. We're going to cross over Showgirls. And so this book is completely brand new art book. This is not a reprinting of previous covers or an art. It is. And basically it takes the story of Showgirls told in order. So if you look through it, like piece by piece by piece, it tells the story of Showgirls through pinups. But it uses the Penny for Your Soul characters, the angels and the devil girls and all that kind of stuff. David Harrigan is in there. Jen Broomall is in there. Oh my God, Brian Peterson's in there. April Reyna. That is Eve Fournier right there. That on that one with the knife. That is Mannix. Oh no, sorry, that's April right there with the flamingo. Everything in there is brand spanking new art.
That is
100%.
It is an absolutely gorgeous book, and I'm worried about getting reported. So okay, I can show the pages that are, but they're. This is very tastefully done, and I think it's an absolutely gorgeous book. I'm really just floored by the production value of all of your books. I mean, the print quality is fantastic, and your books. Every time I showcase anything that's Big Dog Inc., it gets picked up very, very quickly. I don't even have to worry about it. I can just show it off and be like, hey, I got this. And someone will go after it. We also got, and you've done a lot of different things with your publishing line.
Oh yeah, we're across the board. There is no chance that somebody can walk up to the Big Dog Inc. booth at a con and not have something that they're interested in. Impossible. And if you tell me that you're not interested in something there, I will call you out on it, because I'll ask you like, hey, what do you watch? Oh, I watch Buffy. Well, here's Ursa Minor, because that's exactly what Buffy is this idea right here. There's Ursa Minor. What do you like? Oh, I like Godzilla. I have Kaiju Epic right here. There's no chance you come to the Big Dog Inc. booth and have nothing that you like.
Absolutely. So tell us about
Cerusis was, unfortunately, this was a book that working on actually getting it finished, because its 10-year anniversary is coming around the corner in a couple of years, and we want to finish it. So Cerusis was basically where I started my comic book career, oddly enough. I had a friend of mine lives out in Reno, and when we were in high school and afterwards, we created our own game, I guess you'd call it. It was a role-playing, not role-playing like, well, it was role-playing too, because it was characters, but like role-playing, like dice, Dungeons and Dragons. And basically the bottom line of it, it was snake wrestling. So we created our own dice system for this, which no one has ever used yet or since. So it is our dice system. And we were huge wrestling fans back in the 80s and 90s. So we created this wrestling game with these snakes. And so they all had their own characters, just like in the WWF back in the day. And over time, we started to, instead of just playing the game, we would start to draw and write, like interviews, like the snakes were interviewing each other, like they did on the WWF. And so that was the earliest renditions of my comic book world. And I didn't even think about it at the time that I was drawing comic books and writing comics, because they were panel to panel to panel, and it was literally a comic book. And so when we started Big Dog Inc. now 11 years ago, Cerusis was on the front lines to get done and be produced. But it was really hard to find an artist to do what I wanted on the book. And in the meantime, Critter was rolling, Penny for Your Soul was rolling. We ran into Oz the following year, and suddenly Cerusis was on the back burner, just because we had success with the stuff that was happening. So we finally found somebody to do the art. And it's an all ages book. So a lot of the stuff that I do, I mean, all the stuff that I do is all ages anyway. Critter's all ages, Oz is all ages, but this was like a cartoon style all ages thing. It was designed to be like, if you're 5, 6, 7, 8, you can read this book and you'll be fine. There's nothing weird going on in it. We don't do pinup covers for it, any of that kind of stuff. It was designed to be an all ages book. It's sold all right, but the bottom line is that in this comics world that we live in, kids' books are brutal. Audience that gets up in their day and jumps in their car and goes to the comic book store and buys books. They only can do that if mom and dad take them to the comic book store, or if mom and dad take them to a Comic-Con. When we debuted the book at Phoenix Comic-Con, we had kids all over the place that wanted this book, and we watched their parents look at it and be like, no, we'll come back, don't worry, we'll come back. And the kid was like, oh, I want the book. And
I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
I just want to be like, mom and dad, why don't you just, I think we need to start offering, I got this will totally sidetrack, but I was thinking, just give them a cocktail or something, here's
I'm like, look, it's spend $3 on your kid. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, just $3, literally. There's no variant covers. There's nothing weird. It's just, here's a cool thing. It's an animated, it's a cartoon on paper. You're looking at it, so clearly you can see there's nothing weird about it. It's $3. Your kid wants it. Oh, and the artist was there. And his deal was, if you buy the book for $3, he will do a sketch of your kid.
Just for $3?
And we had parents like, oh, well, we'll come back. I'm just like, oh my God. So, we never got to finish the book, but part of that was because right as we were about to do the final issue, that's when we moved over to Aspen, and Aspen became our publisher. So everything that we did stopped. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Started everything over with Aspen. So we never got to finish that last issue, but we are looking at the 10-year anniversary of the book, and we want to get it finished, that final issue. So hopefully in a couple of years, when we do the 10-year anniversary for it, we'll be able to do like a Kickstarter for like a trade paperback and just get the whole thing just like wham, just done. And then we'll be able to actually legitimately have a very easy, like, hey, here's a kid's book right there. But I mean, it's for everybody. It's designed to be an animated cartoon that everybody will like, enjoy, and have fun with, because there's like crazy characters that are snakes. There's crazy characters that are like big Godzilla, reptile guys. It's just a wild science fiction story where the Relatons take over Cerusis. That's those big old Godzilla dudes. They take over Cerusis. A small group of guys takes a small little takes a small little ship to Earth, grabs a few humans that they think will help, save the day, comes back to Cerusis, and then they go on and exploring this whole place and so on. So it's for everybody. It's got levels in it. I compare it to like The Simpsons. It has like adult levels in it as far as like some of the jokes and stuff that kids won't really understand. But like if you watch The Simpsons, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's got, so that's it. That's Cerusis. And we did the first 5 issues. Issue 6, hopefully we'll be able to get done and create the complete trade paperback in a couple of years.
So I'm going to do Cerusis right now. I'm going to keep it at cover price. We got a $3.50 book right here, folks. And anybody who picks this up, you add it to your pile right here. This is really cool. This is one of those rare finds in my collection right here. And we also have this bad boy right here.
And that's a number 1 False Prophet. That is a book that you don't see too often. if we had those, they'd be running about $10 a piece. Assuming, I mean, I don't know what the condition is. You got to decide the condition, like looking at it. But if it's in good shape, that's like a $10 book, easy.
This is looking good to me, Tom. I mean, it's in really good shape, and I don't see anything, in the light here. I'll cut everybody a break on here just because this is the show, and we want to give everybody a chance to pick this up. Anybody who might be new to Big Dog Inc. and you want to jump on, I'm going to just do this for $5 right now. You get a number 1, you get a chance to jump on the series here, and
I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, Tom's going to buy it. Oh, what I'm interested in picking up is the Critter hardcover, and we'll have to talk afterwards. But I think it's really fantastic. And this is something like I just want to pick. Every time I get a chance to talk to you, I love picking your brain because you always kind of help put it into perspective. But now that I've been doing this for I want to say 6 or 7 months, and we're both creators. And Mike is claiming penny for 5, so we got that down. Excellent. And we got Cerusis number 3 going for $3.50. All right, so Michael Libby wanted penny, but Mike James claimed it. Tom, can you hook Mike Libby up with a copy of? You can't.
Nope.
Gotta type fast. Mike is one of the fast typers, but we got you on Cerusis.
Yeah, that book, that penny book is like 7 years old. So yeah, no, it's gone. It's gone. Dang. I haven't had one of those on my show in years. I couldn't even tell you the last time we had one of those on my show. Wow,
that's crazy. And Michael Libby, I can throw this in. You already paid up your invoice for the books you ordered for me this week. I'll throw this on there. And you got free.
Yeah, Mike. I don't know if you're just trying to buy the issues. If you want to read the book, we of course have trade paperbacks and stuff available that are the reprints of those things. But if you're a collector, if you want the specific issues, much harder to do on a lot of that older stuff.
Tom, why don't we do that now? I mean, we've showcased some of the stuff I have here. What do you got over there? Show us some stuff.
I brought some odds and ends. I really just brought like opening beginning points for things, which include the Critter that we just had our 10-year anniversary last year. So these are the brand new 184-page trade paperbacks, volume 1 that we just did. All the back. This is issues 0 through 4, so you get 5 issues in the book. We give you a little teasers of some of the art in there. Art is done by FICO Osio all the way through. Here. Plus the green screen is going to eat up some of that. But what was cool that we got to do here is when we did the first trade paperback, there were pages missing, like actual story pages did not get put into the trade paperback. They weren't things that like threw the whole story off. But it was cool to be able to do this as like a director's cut to like add those scenes back in. And then we also have like design pages, cover galleries, and then at the back, there are never before seen art pages that were done by Jose Luis, who was the first artist for Critter up here. Never before seen art pages. So these are super cool. We now have them available, like I said, for sale if anyone wants to grab them. They are $18 cover prices. We can do them for $15 today. I can sign books if you want as well. So feel free. Let me know if you want one of the books. We'll sign them for you. And, we've got plenty of them. It's a brand new book.
And guys, just so you know, anything you buy right now from Tom, Tom gets 100% of that. So you're helping his publishing company and you're helping him just get his work out there, which I honestly see Tom as one of the hardest working people in comics because you're balancing that, those two hats. And, I honestly, like, that was one of the hardest things for me is figuring out, like, am I a writer? If I'm a writer, I should be writing more.
Right. Yeah.
And or am I an artist? If I'm an artist, I should be drawing more. And it took me a while to kind of figure out, okay, well, I'm a comic book. I like selling comics, so maybe I should be doing more of that. And you and I had you on my show before for an interview, and you told me that you started out in comics as a dealer, and then branched off and started, creating your own stuff. So, now that you've been doing this a while, have you found some sort of like ability to, to kind of manage both equally, or is it still kind of like one of those things where it's sometimes you might give a little bit more attention to dealing, and sometimes you might, are there times that you kind of like partition off for creativity and times you focus more on sales?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, because we do essentially quarterly Kickstarters with the occasional quickie in between, the creative time is not always as demanding because, again, you're only doing one book every, 3 months essentially. So, of course, then you have what's happening right now. It's almost done. I'm writing the Goth Day special, which launches 2 weeks after this thing ends on May 22nd. That's going to be a complete new story, not just new covers, but a whole new story for Goth Day. Then we have Camp Rad Dog in July. I'm writing that. And then I'm writing crossover with CB Zane, Catgirl of Mars, and Into the Suck. We're writing that. And then I'm writing the final 40 pages of Oz, which launches in October. So I have a lot to do right now from a creative standpoint. But you can't stop slinging the books. You always have to be there to be like, hey, here's my next book. Here's my next book. Did you guys miss this variant? Did you get this trade paperback? You got to keep doing that. You got to be doing these things as much as you can. I mean, that's your marketing. That's your Comic-Con, like we talked about. There's no cons. So this is your Comic-Con. Use the time however you want to use it. I mean, basically what we're doing is just like a panel. It's like people show up, they listen to us talk. It's like a panel at a Comic-Con. But, if you want something, boom, we got comics too. You can take them home. But yeah, you gotta, when it's time to create, you gotta just sit down and make sure it gets done. Because all the creation starts with the writer, because then it goes to the artist, then it goes to the colorist, and then it goes to the letter. And if you break that chain, then every link behind it slows down. So, if you're the head of the snake, you've got to make sure that, it's eaten properly, to make sure
you don't choke on everything.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And, it's, you're 100% right about that. And, there's also, I want to say, a lot of creativity that goes into a lot of like the live sales too. I mean, and even not just forget live sales for a minute. Let's just talk Kickstarter. There's a lot of creativity. You got to create the campaign. You got to create worthy, rewards for your customers. Some really nice stretch goals, all those kinds of things. That requires creativity. You can't just pull that stuff out of your ass.
Ding, stretch goals.
And you got to produce the stuff too, right? I mean,
yeah.
And thinking about what does my audience want? What can I give them? How do I get to that? That's all creativity. I mean, like, and to focus on all that. And then of course you got to write all the jargon for your campaign, which nobody ever reads, of course. They most of the time when I back a campaign, I know the person.
Yeah, that's just template stuff now. Whatever I wrote last time, I'm writing the same thing. Spoiler alert, it's the same thing. Now, obviously, if you get a little bit of a difference because it's like, okay, in this issue, something happens. But all of the basics of concept, all of that is just sort of copy paste. And then you get into what is actually new.
Yeah. And like that's the thing too. The only other time I backed someone right away without any hesitation is when they messaged me randomly, and I've never met the person before, and they asked me for it.
Of course.
I open up my wallet and I say, please, take it. And I saw you made a post about this the other day, and I found that to be right on the money. It's just like the marketing for this stuff is there has to be a personal touch to it. You can't just start messaging people and being like, hey, and again, that requires creativity. How are you going to reach those people? Once you get outside of you have to go outside of your circle.
Sure.
So how do you constantly find ways to do that so that you can, because I see you set these goals, like you set a goal of getting 300 backers. Now you reach that goal. Now you're setting the next goal. How do you keep it fresh, and how do you find new people in this digital, and just from constantly doing Kickstarters, or is there something else?
Well, the Kickstarter is its own ecosystem. It's filled with people that don't know who you are. So, every time that they're there for something else, most of the time they're going to hang around and probably see if there's anything else that's going on at the same time. So we get tons of new people just by doing Kickstarter. Like, I have no idea who these guys are. They found me through Kickstarter. They keep coming back through Kickstarter. I never see them on my live shows. We're not friends on Facebook. Like, that's it. They are Kickstarter people, and that is it. And we get them all the time. Outside of that, it's just like doing these types of things. It's just trying to, create that next Venn diagram. Like I loop with Jim Noble. David Fott loops with Phil Locklear, and Phil Locklear loops with this guy. And we just kind of try and keep that Venn diagram looping, connecting into everybody a little bit here, a little bit there. It's the 6 degrees of everybody, because the more circles you exist in, even just in a small footprint, the more opportunity you have for people to find what you're doing. I mean, it's as simple and as difficult as that, but you just keep talking. You just keep talking. That's it. No matter where you are, whatever you're posting, whatever group you're in, doesn't matter if you got no likes yesterday, post it again. Doesn't matter if you got no likes, post it again. Also remember that just because you don't get a like doesn't mean it wasn't seen. And that's the part that a lot of people miss. And that's where also a lot of people are like, oh shit, I got to like swamp this place because I'm not getting likes. No, people are seeing it. They're just not reacting to it. And that's good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, you don't really get a result of that, but people are seeing it. They're just not reacting to it. But it's not if you don't get a like, it's not like, oh my God, nobody likes me. It's just nobody's taken that second to push the button.
Well, I wanted to say what you said just now kind of makes me realize how the atmosphere has changed, because, when I go to a convention, I'm just focused on my booth. Like, I don't, you've seen that graphic of, the guy with the creator-owned comic across the way from like the artist with, the high display and everything like that. And that's never bothered me at a convention, because, the people who are going to buy art are going to be buying art. The people who are going to be buying comics are going to be buying comics. Like, it never affects me. It's two different, it's two different products right there. It's like a video game store being across from a Starbucks. Like that's kind of how I see it. But when I'm at conventions, when you're in the physical sense, you're only worried about what's going on around you. I mean, obviously you want to be mindful of your neighbors and things like that, but I mean, you don't really have to work with each other. And now that like everything's been taken digitally, you're 100%. I agree 100% with what you're saying, in the sense that we all kind of need to, work off of each other's, circles, because that's how we expand,
Sure.
And my hope is, somebody who's watching this right now, Mike Libby, anybody, who sees this, who's interested and may not know what you're doing or whatever, jumps into what you're doing. And I'll be honest with you, I probably feed off of the same channel that you do, because we're both on CBSN as dealers. But,
yeah, but even being there's 5,000 people that watch that show. I don't know who all those 5,000 people are. They're not all watching the Doghouse. No. So while I get a couple of new people whenever I do a show, that doesn't mean that, I'm scouring that 5,000. So it's the funnel. It's however big your funnel is, it's always going to funnel down to a smaller amount. But the bigger your funnel top is, the bigger the funnel bottom is. So you just got to keep putting yourself out there and getting into different places so that more eyeballs fall into that funnel, and you can be like Kickstarter, and then so many percentage, will eventually land on your Kickstarter or your live show or whatever it is you're trying to promote.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that brings me to another thing that I find really interesting about this. So going to my first convention last weekend, you know, I was expecting everybody to like, I'm trying to like, now it's like, how do I summarize what I do now? Like, how do I get somebody who buys my Eastern Shin comics to start shopping with me on my live sales shows? And, you know, like, let's say you bought the first 4 issues. I want you to be able to come on back and, you know, basically take the experience and bring it to a virtual, you know? And the funny thing is that I got emails, and you get emails and you send them out, and it's the emails is perfectly like the funnel system, right? It's like you send out the emails and maybe one person out of like say 50 respond, but that's one person. And then you got this bottom, you know, like what you're saying, it's like an hourglass is what I'm seeing. And then at the bottom of that hourglass is something that's constantly growing, and that, you know, you got all your regulars over there, people who are fans of you, and that just keeps going, because once someone's a fan of you, you got to work hard to lose that. But, you know, it was so funny because so many people I was interacting with were like, I don't have a Facebook account. Okay. All righty then, you know, like, well, there's YouTube, and we were talking about YouTube as well. And like, that's just not, you know, I don't know if that'll ever change, but it just doesn't seem like the platform where people are really, you know, buying stuff. You know, people are always kind of like going on YouTube for pre-record, and
YouTube's a whole different animal. Everywhere you go is different. Facebook is different from Instagram. Instagram is different from Twitter. Twitter is different from YouTube. They all, and this is the part that drives me batshit, because nobody pays attention to the understanding the point that everything that you do and everywhere that you go, it is a different ecosystem. Okay, you go to the comic book store, that is a different ecosystem than Comic-Con is a different ecosystem than comic live sales online. It is different, and you can't treat it all the same way, because it doesn't work the same way. So if you want to go into all of these different venues and try from a selling standpoint, if you want to go into all these different venues and be successful, you have to be able to adapt to each one specifically to make it work to its maximum level. And rant, I guess. I don't know.
I agree with you. And, you know, it's all different. And it's almost kind of like, you know, how it's hard. You got to work with, I feel like the one thing I'm starting to realize is you got to treat each ecosystem like its own thing.
100%. And here's the other part. Here's the really frustrating part. However many followers you have, it doesn't mean shit.
No, it doesn't mean
from a sales standpoint, it doesn't mean
Absolutely.
shit. Now, yeah, I mean, it just doesn't mean a thing, because if you have, there are people that have 100,000 people following them. Well, they're not getting 100,000 sales on whatever they're.
No.
And it's good from a self-marketing sense. I mean, this is what influencers are, right? Influencers are, I have 1 million people following me. So Nike says, well, wear our shoes and tell people that you wear Nike shoes. So that's great. That's fine. But, you know, even that, it doesn't translate to 1 million new people buying a Nike shoe. So you have to really kind of take all of social media with a grain of salt. What does it really mean? Nothing except for the bottom line, which is how many people are buying your product. And that is the number that ultimately matters. And you want that number to grow. And how do you do that? You do it by getting more followers. Again, the funnel, 100,000 people, 200,000 people, 1 million people. That makes that funnel bigger, so that the bottom of the funnel is bigger. So if you get 1 million people following you and you have 1,000 people buying, there you are.
Yeah. And, you know, it almost feels like I was kind of thinking about this too, because, you know, now that I'm going to certain conventions and setting up both as a creator and a dealer simultaneously, it's the challenge I have there is, you know, how to direct people, kind of a thing. Like, okay, here's my comic, but then here are all these other comics, you know? And I noticed that when I'm pitching my book, because I got one series, right, I'm usually catching people off guard. I mean, we all are, you know, when we're at conventions, because everybody's got somewhere to be. There's some panel going on or some signature thing going on here. And stopping those people, it's like, I feel like when you're in live sales, the people who are watching, they are invested, like time-wise. Like they're not going anywhere else. They're sitting there and they're listening. They're not necessarily going to remember everything you show them, So I have no problems sometimes recycling some of the same comics because there's a very high chance that someone didn't see that comic. And maybe I would have showed it before, but they turned away for just that second and they missed it. So, and then they don't see it anymore because it's, it's off to the side or it's somewhere else. So, it's important, I think, to, kind of see it as, as everything is its different thing. When people go to a comic shop, they want to pick up their regular stuff. They want to do a little bit of browsing. They might, BS a little bit. Someone at a convention, they have an agenda. They have a budget. They're not necessarily there to to buy comics. They could be there for a whole variety of things. Whereas live sales, people are specifically watching either because they got, they want to be entertained, or as Jesse puts it, comic book therapy. It's like you get to hang out and talk comics with people virtually, and you can do it from your phone. You can do it anywhere you want.
Yep. Yep. So, I mean, comic sales are the most nonsensical thing ever.
Absolutely. And
you're watching a show that you don't even know what they're going to show you. I mean, you could be a Star Wars collector and all you're going to see is Batman on that show. You just have no idea. But people show up because they're interested. They like the person that's doing it. And they're like, okay, well, he's going to open a box. What's in that box? Let's see what's in that box. And you might not buy anything for 2 hours because you don't buy what they're showing you. But from the selling standpoint, from the seller standpoint, it's interesting because, the broader your stock, the more chance, again, it's like I said, when you come to the Big Dog Ink booth, there's something here for you. So the broader your stock as you're doing a show, the more chance you have of starting to check off boxes for whoever's watching, whether it's old stuff, new stuff, cheap stuff, expensive stuff, whatever.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think helps me too. One of the things I learned that I never did before as a dealer when I was doing conventions. Like I saw a kid come by and it's like, I obviously can't picture me some chin, but I was like, hey, what's your favorite superhero? He says, Thor. I got like 6 Thor graphic novels. I whip them all out and I just say, hey, take your pick. And then it's just a done deal after that because they got what they wanted and it was cool. And I think also, you're right, comic book sales are just such a weird thing, but I think that the engagement is the most important thing. It's helping the customer find what it is that they want to read, and it's, you can do it as a publisher and have like a wide variety of different things like what you have, and that's I think that's the ideal route, right? Is to be able to secure all that. But I guess in my case, I just focused so much on this one title that you think about all the people that go to conventions, and if you don't broaden your horizons, you can't really keep them coming back. And that's, I think, is a very important thing, because someone might buy your book and then they're not coming back for the next one because here's what I notice happens with a lot of comics. They just get stacked. Stacks happen. You buy like a bunch of comics at a convention, then you go to a store, then you go on Amazon, then you go there and this place and that. And then all of a sudden you got this big stack of books you got to read. And you may have really liked that book that you picked up from me, but you didn't get a chance to read it yet because you got this big stack that you're still working on. And so you're not going to buy anything new from me. And that's also, I think, one of the challenges that we face. And it's kind of weird how they used to do it. Like if you look at the olden days, so to speak, like with the newsstands and all that kind of stuff, it was just there. You would just see these comics and you pick them up and that would be it. Now it's just such a different playing field. I feel like we're truly in the future now. It feels like sci-fi-ish the way we sell comics.
Well, there's so much now, and that's where these stacks come from. There's so much. I mean, even Marvel and DC, they're putting out 50 books a month for Marvel and DC. Now DC is like, yep, we're not doing that anymore. So they're cutting their stuff back to like 20 titles a month. It's like crazy cutback on DC Comics. And even Marvel's cut back a little bit, but those guys churning out like 50 different books a month, that's just piles of books for people to buy. And then you have all these indie publishers, if you're buying your Transformers, if you're buying Power Rangers, whatever, it's just more and more and more. There's so much content right now. It's crazy. So I don't envy the comic book buyer and trying to figure out like, how do I get what I want, and even if I get it, when do I read it? I mean, that's where priorities come in. That's where people are like, well, you know what? I know I like Big Dog Inc. I know I want to read this Oz book. I'm going to buy this Oz book. Comes in, they buy it, it comes in, they read it, and at the time they read it, the next Kickstarter is launching, and they're like, oh, okay, the next one's there. I'm going to get the next one. People make priorities, and that's what it is. And there are people who prioritize Marvel and DC over anything else. There are people who prioritize indies over anything else. So you just got, and that's the thing with the cons, is you never really know what's walking by your table. They might not give two shits for what some indie guy is doing, because all they're looking for is another Deadpool thing or another Batman thing that's already flooded the market. But that's all they do is that one thing, and that's their thing. And you just got to be like, well, okay. It's really funny. In my 10, well, I guess it would have been 9 years at the time. In my 9 years of selling comics, I had never sold anything to a guy or girl wearing anything Deadpool, a hat, a shirt, whatever. If they were wearing Deadpool stuff, there was a 0 chance they were buying anything.
Are you serious? Like
zero,
like
zero.
Even if you sold them Deadpool or Harley Quinn or whatever.
Well, no, I always, when I'm at a booth, it's just Big Dog stuff.
Yeah, okay.
So
I got what you're saying.
I would see some guy come through and he would be wearing a Deadpool shirt or a hat or just something Deadpool-ish on him. No chance at all. For 9 years, that was the case. Now, that's not to say he wasn't there the next day in a different shirt and he bought something, but if he was actively in that shirt, I would never be able to sell something to him in Deadpool. And I was like, fuck this Deadpool stuff, because I don't want to see any more Deadpool because I can't sell to them. Then in towards the end of year 9, or it might have been early year 10, and I'm thinking it was Albuquerque Comic Con in year 10. Here comes a guy in Deadpool shirt, and I'm like, God damn it. All right, whatever. Here's my spiel, guy. I know. See you later. Take it easy. And he stays there, and he's looking. And I'm like, you're wasting my time. I know you're wasting my time. And he's looking, and he's just kind of walking down the table. And I'm just like, all right, whatever. And then I talk to somebody else, and I'm helping him out and whatever. And then I'm done with them. And dude comes back, and he's got like a pile of books in his hands. And he's like, so I want to get all this. And I was like, well, God damn, you are my first.
All the other 9 years.
That's right. Yeah. It only took me 9 years to sell to somebody in Deadpool gear. But it finally happened. So I felt like, I broke that glass ceiling. Some damage in this industry.
I got a good one for you. So I was at a convention, Steel City Comic Con last year, and there was this dude, and this guy was just complete iron. Like his arms, his hands, every time he shook my hand, he literally like broke every bone in my hand. And he was like, I pitched him, and I'm thinking, this guy's a shirt, he's a foot in, or a shoe in the door, I got this guy. He didn't buy anything. He's like, I'll be back Sunday, all this stuff. And he came by every day, and every day he just kept like shaking my hand and like breaking every bone in my body until I finally told him, I'm like, dude, you're very strong, and you're breaking, I can't keep up with it. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, man. So then he got all gentle. And of course he didn't pick up anything, and I don't think he would have picked up anything anyway. But here's what he did do. On Sunday, he comes back with like a baton. Like, he's like, hey, man, I brought this with me in case anybody tries to mess with me. And I was like, well, thanks. Did you want to pick up the books? No. That's a nice baton. I didn't want to say get out of here, because you probably would scram. But you see all kinds of people in these kinds of environments, and it's interesting. I love it. I miss it. It's a very, but you're right. It's a very different, it's very different than, say what we do here in live sales and even Kickstarter. With Kickstarter, it's like what you're saying. You got to constantly get out there and talk about it, and not be afraid to have a conversation, and to keep it going, and to share war stories like what we're doing right now. Peter Trevino is saying, interesting. I support the person. I guess getting to know you guys on these type of shows gives me a chance to meet you, the creator. You may have different artists or whatever, but I will still support over the ladder. I don't care if it's Marvel or DC. Of course it makes sense. Does it make sense to you, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and also this story isn't to like, put down the Deadpool people. Like I said, everybody has their thing, right? So if Deadpool's your thing, then go collect your thing. It doesn't bother me. But it's like I said, it was a very, very noticeable like trend, which just drove me crazy.
And Mike is saying that both him and Trish have the Deadpool shirts. And it's making on the back end now. So the next 10 years, you're gonna have nothing but people wearing Deadpool shirts, buying up like big stacks of your books. Well, here was the thing that I thought when I first got into it, and then we're gonna need to end this show. But guys, just so you know, Tom is gonna be back on the EXP in just 2 hours with me. So we're gonna post a link so you guys can check it out. We're gonna continue this conversation. We're gonna start fresh. We're gonna keep this thing going. And Tom, what I really want to talk to you about in that second hour is I want to hear about Rad Dog, Camp Rad Dog. I think I love the concept. I love everything that you're doing with it, and I want to hear all about it. But I thought anyway, going back to what I was saying, I had for my lot, I had a bunch of Deadpool and Harley Quinn books, and I thought these are going to go really fast because everybody loves Deadpool and Harley Quinn. And it's funny. It just doesn't. It just stays there. It's funny.
The Deadpool and the Harley market, they peaked about 5 years ago when the movie came out. Like that was its peak. It was insane and crazy, and everything you had went out the door. And now it's just like, all right, we've been there, we've done it, we're moving on. Yeah. All
right, Tom. Well, I want to give you a chance well, first off, thank you for taking time out of your day to come hang out with us. And we're going to see you again in 2 hours. But for those of us who are not going to be able to catch you on the EXP, I want to give you a chance to do your final word and tell us where we can follow you and do all that wonderful stuff.
Yeah, of course. Facebook, guys, you're all here on Facebook. So just friend me up if you want. Follow if you're not comfortable doing the friend thing. We have the Big Dog Inc. fan page. Go look it up. We have like 30,000 people that follow us on that fan page. BDI Comics on Twitter and Instagram. And we have a Patreon too. If you go to patreon.com/Big Dog Inc., you can join the almost 40 people that we have now who are getting all the backstage pass access to everything that we do. Big Dog Inc. wise, from designs to logos to art, pencils, colors. If you want to watch the cake being made, Patreon is where you want to be.
That is awesome. That is really cool. And guys, we will be back in just 2 hours with Tom. We still got some of his books for sale. And Tom, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to splay these out on my rack in the background, and I'm gonna actually go in the studio room. And I think we're going to have fun. It's going to be a nice little backdrop. You'll have your backdrop, and I'll have a backdrop. It'll be all Big Dog. And you had mentioned earlier that everybody that supports or owns any Big Dog Inc. books is part of the family. And I can just tell you from my experience as somebody who has supported Big Dog Inc. that I definitely feel like I'm a part of the family, picking up those books. I really appreciate what you put out there, and all the guidance that you've provided for me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely. So we will be back on in just 2 hours, folks, and we're gonna have a really good time. I'm gonna grill Tom more about Patreon, because I really want to. What I'm most curious about is figuring out how you manage to keep all these moving parts going, and this is simultaneously. So this is going to be really great, and we're going to talk about Camp Rad Dog more. That's what I also want to focus on, and we're going to just have a good time. So whether you guys pick up stuff from us or not a big deal. We will have books for sale, but we really just want your company. Come and hang out on the EXP. It's going to be a fun experience. And Tom's a handsome guy. Look at him. Look at that face. Look at that punim right here. He looks just like John Cusack. If I had to Captain John Cusack.
I've graduated from Steven Seagal to John Cusack.
Steven Seagal, really?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, with the ponytail and everything. Of course. Oh, dude. Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah.
He's hard to kill. Hard to kill. All right, Tom. Well, thank you very much. We are going to end the show now. Folks, we will be back on in just 2 hours. So we will see you then. Thank you so much for tuning in for this afternoon. We had a great time with you. See you soon.